Ready? Okay. Set.
That's time.
Yep, set time.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, the financial.
Oh, okay.
There's always some risk in life.
I'd like to call the meeting to an order. The regular, actually, it's a special meeting agenda tonight, December 17th. Please join Councilmember Barber in the Pledge of Allegiance and Invocation. And then please stay standing. We're going to have a moment of silence. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Lord, tonight in Goodyear, Arizona, we remember the 28 people and all the beautiful children who were slain in Friday's school shooting in Newtown, Connecticut. Let's take a moment of silence in honor of the students, the staff, and the families of Sandy Hook Elementary School. The upcoming holidays are traditionally a time of peace. May we find peace here in Goodyear. May our schools be safe throughout the new year, and may our police and fire personnel remain safe while they protect us on the streets of Goodyear throughout the upcoming holidays. Amen.
I'm having trouble with my chair today. And I say, look, we are all here this evening. And Bill, are you still on the line?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Councilman Stiff. All right, and there are no communications tonight. So now is the time for citizens who would like to address the City Council on any non-agenda item. Do we have any cards?
No.
All right, thank you. Does anybody wish? We already did that, thank you. So, no speaker cards, nobody from the audience. All right, let's go down to the consent agenda. Will the city clerk please read the consent agenda item A, please?
Approved draft minutes of a regular meeting and a special meeting held on December 3rd, 2012.
Does anybody wish to remove anything on this item from the consent agenda? Council? No? Thank you. Then I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved. Second.
I heard a motion by Councilman Campbell and a second by Vice Mayor Osborne. Roll call, please.
Sorry. Vice Mayor Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Barber?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you. So let's go to the business items. On A, to approve and adopt the City of Goodyear Administrative Process Manual. It's needs approving and adopting, so Joe Schmidt will present. Joe?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have a brief presentation to make, which is a recap of last week's work session item. Except that now we're actually to the point where we have the manual prepared, and in case you haven't seen it, it looks like this. So I know you've gotten copies,
printing?
but
Is it big printing? Is it in
it's-
big print?
No, it's actually fairly small print.
Small, okay.
And it's copied on two sides. So. It basically describes the submittal requirements and process for each application type. We've organized the manual by functional areas. There's a section on development service processes, which includes, I would point out, legislative decisions like rezoning, which may in fact be exempt from this ordinance. We have some, there are some differing legal opinions out there as to whether it applies or doesn't apply. But yet we've created the processes so that we can give people still a general idea of how long things take. They're also set up by building plan review, city clerk's processes. The engineering processes are actually cross-referenced to the Engineering Design Standards and Policies Manual, which is the other item that's up before you tonight. And then also by environmental services, fire department, and police department. As I had indicated last time, it establishes an administrative completeness review stage, where we review an application to make sure everything that's necessary to review it has been submitted. With the clock the time clock stops when we return it back to the applicant. It only runs when it's in our hands. I would point out that we have a maximum time to resubmit set at 90 days to keep the application active. That's not a requirement by Senate Bill 1598, but we also don't want applications just to hang out there forever. We feel that during this stage of the process, 90 days should be more than adequate. And then, as I mentioned last week, failure to respond within the time frame results in an automatic acceptance of the application for processing, which then moves into the substantive review time frame, and it varies by different processes. It allows for one review and one resubmission. Again, the clock is stopped while it's in the hands of the applicant. The maximum time that we've set for this for resubmittal is 180 days. So when it goes back to the applicant, they have essentially 6 months within which to resubmit the application. Believe it or not, we do have applications that once they've gotten comments don't resubmit and just hang out there. This would actually put a limit on that. After the review of the resubmission, the application is either approved or denied, and unless the applicant agrees to additional reviews, and then if time permitting, we can consider additional reviews. And we've set the time frames long enough, and basically, again, they're maximum time frames. They're set considering kind of the worst case scenario, but that also provides us with the opportunity to, by mutual agreement with the applicant, to go through another review process, which hopefully can resolve issues and lead to an approval rather than having to reject it just because of the running out of time. We can also extend the time frame by 25% of the overall time frame, but we are restricted and it cannot be extended indefinitely. It's important because if there's no response by the end of the substantive review time frame, the time frame expires, the fees must be refunded, and the application is still processed. Again, we don't want to be forced into a denial necessarily, but just to avoid refunding fees. The denial, if there is one, must be based on code, ordinance, or substantive policy statement, and the applicant has the right to appeal that decision. A couple additional items that we've included in the manual: if there is no time frame specified for a process, if there is no process or time frame specified, we have a default process and time frame in the manual, just in case we missed one. I won't say it's a perfect manual by any stretch of the imagination, so we have a default built in. We also have provided that for concurrent applications where we run different processes simultaneously, the maximum time frame is set as the longest time frame of the application. It's set as the process that has the longest time frame is the maximum time frame. We don't want to get into a situation where one process is constrained by a shorter time frame, then we have to reject the application simply because we ran out of time on that process. I would like to reiterate something I mentioned last time too, is that the maximum time frame is just that. It's not the same as the cycle time. We have cycle time goals where we try to get reviews done in a timely manner and keep things moving forward. This is a maximum time frame. It's the maximum amount of time we can take. That's not our goal. And so they shouldn't be confused as being one and the same. And lastly, due to this end of the year deadline that was set upon us, there was limited opportunity for review, and it may be necessary to bring further revisions back if problems are identified. Once we get a little experience with working with this new law and the process, there may be necessary to bring changes back. So don't be surprised, I guess, if you see us back here. Hopefully not too frequently, but for that purpose. But as I said, it's a new law. We're all kind of feeling our way through as to how to work the compliance. And that concludes my presentation, and we would ask for you to consider adoption of the resolution adopting the policy manual.
Thank you very much. Are there any speaker cards?
No.
Thank you. Will the city clerk please read the resolution 12-1523 by title only?
Adopt Resolution 12-1523 approving and adopting a City of Goodyear Administrative Process Manual dated December 17, 2012, and providing for an effective date.
Could I please have a motion and a second?
So moved. Second.
Hear a motion by Councilman Loretano, and did I hear a second by Councilman Barber? Council discussion.
We've covered
Councilman
this.
Pizzillo.
No, I'm just saying, you did a good presentation during the work session on some of the details, so I had my questions answered then. So.
Yeah, you really did a great job the first time around, and it was very understandable. Any other? All right. Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Pizzillo,
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano,
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell,
Aye.
Councilmember Barber,
Aye.
Councilmember Stitt,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne,
Aye.
Mayor Lord.
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
All right, we'll go down to item B, and it's to consider adopting updated engineering design standards and policy manual. Darren Farr will present. I just want to note that I put on in front of you, there's been a change, and he will cover that in this. But whomever makes the motion needs to have this in it, okay? All right, Darren, there you go.
Thank you, Mary Lord. Mayor Lord and members of council, I'm pleased to present to you tonight our engineering design standards and policy manual, an update to that standard from our 2007 standard. My presentation tonight will include a brief recap again of the presentation I gave last Monday on December 10th, and it will also propose a change to correct an error that was brought to our attention late this afternoon. There are three key reasons why we've performed this update to the engineering design standards. The first is to establish a process that allows us to comply with Senate Bill 1598. The changes and updates that we made to our design standards that include the revisions for SB 1598 are included in Chapters 0 through 2. They established maximum time frames for administrative and substantive reviews. They clarify the submittal requirements for the applicants, and they coordinate the engineering processes with the processes of the other departments, specifically the Development Services Department. And they also established an appeals process for the applicant to follow that we didn't have previously. The second key reason was included in Chapter 1, and that is to establish an enforcement authority. That was given in Chapter 1, and there was also financial penalties that were identified in the ordinance. These are all very similar to what is included with the Administrative Process Manual. The third key reason, and probably the most important for me, is to update the engineering design standards and details to meet current practices. And that's included in Chapters 3 through 10 of the standards. And the update includes recommendations from internal departments, as well as standards that meet current engineering practices. And they also address input that we received from the development community. And this is a recap from last week. I'm not going to go in detail through this slide. The only thing I wanted to bring out in this slide is that we are including the engineering design details as a part of the text of the manual. Before they were separated. Now we're going to bring those back together into one complete document. And I am missing a slide that I hoped was on there. That is the proposed change. To my slides here. And late this afternoon, we were in discussion with, let me go ahead and put it on the overhead.
So what you're doing now is you're going to be explaining the change from what we had. Is that what we're doing?
Correct, Mayor Lord.
All right.
This is the late this afternoon in discussions with one of the developers in our community. Brought up a point that was made previously that we needed to revise the language for dry utility improvement plans for subdivision. We had previously indicated that they needed to be submitted with the rest of the improvement plan package. And the reality is, due to the way APS designs electrical plans, they have to be submitted at a later stage. And so we changed that language to say that they will be submitted as a separate and distinct plan review. And the review times for masquerading plan review will apply. Masquerading plan review times are located just above that in the chapter, directly above that, and they're adequate for the type of review to be performed. That essentially concludes my presentation for today.
All right, thank you very much. Are there any speaker cards?
Yes, I have one. Pete Teiche.
Teiche?
Tyke.
Tyke? Okay, Mr. Tyke. Oh, yes. Hello.
I like embarrassing you in public better.
Good evening, Mayor and council members, and thank you for letting me speak. First, I just wanted to thank the engineering staff. They've just been great in this process and great to work with, been well open to listen, so it's just been appreciative if we went through this. What I wanted to talk about tonight is just some of the concerns I have. In particular, if I just set this on here.
Oops.
It's fast. In particular, I understand Senate Bill 1598 has been a challenge at best. But reading through some of this, it's just raised some concerns, at least from the development side of some of the time frames. For instance, you can see where I underlined the one in particular, 175 days for construction plan review. Just being potentially almost a 6-month process could certainly hamper any development moving forward. I understand they're going to try and hit different time frames, but seeing something like this just raises a very big concern from the development side. So I just wanted to point that out. The other thing that I just wanted to mention was, I apologize for my notes on here. There was a group of us, Sunbelt Holdings, Newland Real Estate Group, ARED, which has the Madera project, and then AV Homes, which has the retirement community, Cantamia. We all met when we originally saw the original pavement sections, and what we did was hired a company that Protex. Unfortunately, the gentleman's in California and couldn't be here tonight. But we just had some concerns with some of the thicknesses of the pavement. As you might know, pavement is one of the more expensive items that we do. So the concern is not to minimize the pavement. What we asked them to do is be conservative. We want to make sure that the city's needs are met, and that we hopefully can address where they're concerned. One of the major issues we were understanding, or two, was longevity. Certainly understand that. And then future mill and overlay. And so keeping those in mind, what we did was ask him to look at these and make some recommendations, which the residential, what we asked for was a 2.5-inch thick section. The city has come back with 3. We feel we could live with that. It's not too far from the realm of each other, so we don't want to question that one. But where we're getting concerned is the collector and the arterials. Most of them, we're about an inch difference in pavement section, which an inch to us is it's quite a bit of money. It's not the money that we're necessarily going to get concerned with,
I'm
do
going to
I?
give him just a bit more because we had trouble getting his display up, okay? So keep going and finishing it.
So it's not the money we're necessarily concerned with. It's the paying the money, and that we're not necessarily agreeing that we're going to get the added benefit. And so what we concluded was that we felt that the original side or the sections we recommended would have met the benefit. It's just a difference of, like I said, about an inch. Inch can be very expensive. What it does is it drives up the lot cost when you have to pay these. And as you know, especially in a market currently, we try to keep those to the lowest point we can get them to get the builders in there, make the project viable. So just another concern on our part. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay. Is there anybody from the audience that also would like to speak? Thank you. Then will the city clerk please read Resolution 12-1526 by title only?
Adopt Resolution 12-1526, declaring as a public record that certain document filed with the city clerk and entitled City of Goodyear Engineering Design Standards and Policies Manual 2012 edition.
Thank you. So can I have a motion? And a motion has to be as the paper we have in front of you, because that incorporates the changes. So I hear a motion from
Yes, Mayor.
Councilman Campbell. Okay, would you read it, please?
Yes, Mayor. I move that we adopt Resolution 12-1526, declaring as a public record that certain document filed with the city clerk and entitled City of Goodyear Engineering Design Standard and Policy Manual 2012 edition with a revision to Exhibit A pertaining to Section 2.4.1.f as presented by staff.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Discussion.
Oh, discussion. I'm sorry. Discussion.
Mayor,
Bill, I hear, excuse me, Councilman Stipp, yes?
I wasn't sure when I could jump in there, so I just took it. Is it possible for us to hear from someone from staff to address the concerns that Pete brought up?
Mayor Lord and Councilmember Stipp, thank you for the opportunity to address the council on this. I'd like to speak to the time frame question first, and then David Ramirez, our city engineer, has asked to speak to the pavement cross-section thickness. The time frames, as I mentioned in the presentation, we coordinated with several other departments in the city to develop the time frames that we've established. The 175 days for a construction plan review coincides exactly with the time frame that the planning department has established for a final plat process. Those time frames are exactly the same, so with the idea that that's going to be our maximum time frame for a construction plan to be reviewed is through that final plat process, due to the fact that it has to come before council for approval. So we identified that as a maximum time frame, so just that those two processes could run consecutively. At the other question and the other situation that we had to be aware of is that if we narrowed our time frames, if we made them too short, and we had to issue a denial because it wasn't long enough for a plan to come back in through the iterative process, it would create a situation where the development community would end up having to repay fees to the city for another review. So we had to kind of find that happy medium between giving us enough time to review the plans as well as not creating a situation where it's too short that the development community would be paying fees repetitively.
Darren, you guys had taken feedback from the development community in the development of this, if I remember from the work session, correct?
We presented, Councilmember Stipp, Mayor Lord, we presented the standards through a 1-month review process. We did not receive any comments on that particular standard through that review process. I did speak with with Pete earlier today, and he had mentioned that this concern, that's the first time we had heard of the concern. And again, I'll let the planning department speak if they want to, but I don't believe they received any comments about their review timeframes either.
Okay. No, I'm satisfied with that. So if I can just hear from Dave about the pavement issue, I appreciate that.
Thank you. I'll defer to David.
Any other discussion?
Well, he was going to talk about the payment.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear. Yeah, what?
He answered my question.
Did he?
He answered your question?
Yeah.
All right. I'm sorry, they were questioning that maybe Joe's question was not answered.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'll address the comment regarding the pavement cross sections. We did receive comments from Pete Tyke and from his consultant, and we did take those into account in our considerations to revise the cross sections. Actually, compared to the 07 standards, which are the current standards, there's been quite a reduction in several of the cross sections. What we're trying to do is we're trying to balance upfront construction with long-term maintenance costs. So, not to put the burden entirely on the development community to construct like a Super Duty pavement section, so as to totally minimize our future O&M costs. We tried to find something that was basically fair. I mean, it wasn't. We felt a balance to the upfront cost of the developer as well as looking out to what the city would incur in the future to maintain the cost. So, just speaking on the two cross sections that Mr. Tyke mentioned, Section C. Actually, it will only apply to collector streets that are in the industrial areas, and it is a 5-inch pavement section. It's 1 inch thicker than the current section, and it was for that. It was for that reason, because of the higher vehicle weight loads that would typically be on those types of streets. And then on the arterial street, it was our Type A. 6-inch cross pavement section. That's actually the same section as we currently have. Only difference is our current section has 3 lifts. It has a base course of 2 1/4, followed by a second course of 2 1/4, and a top lift of 1 1/2 inch for a total of 6 inches. What we decided was better in terms of the capacity of the street itself. A better cross section was to maintain the thickness, but to have 2 3-inch lifts instead. So, cost-wise, it'll probably be a little cheaper than we currently have with a 3-lift section, but it is the same cross. It is the same thickness as we currently have, and that's our recommendation.
Further discussion? So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
please, Bill, excuse me, Councilman Stipp, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm suffering from a cold as well. So the current standard for the industrial is actually thinner today than this proposal. Is that correct?
It is in our current standards. We don't specifically call out an industrial cross section. We just have we have 2 cross sections. One has a rubberized surface course, which would be used in residential areas, and the other is a non-rubberized in all other areas, including industrial. What we decided made more sense would be in the areas that are non-industrial. We did increase the thickness to 4 1/2 inches on that section, but the section that Pete was referring to is for industrial use only, and that went from 4 to 5, again to reflect the need for a thicker pavement for that use.
Which, inherently makes sense to me, but are we experiencing a quicker breakdown in the areas that were built to today's standard that we felt the need to make this thicker?
We don't have a great deal of industrial streets, but we do have some that are have sustained a lot of loss of life, so to speak. And so, in view of those, and in view of the interest of the city to develop industrial streets, and also looking ahead for our O&M costs. We just came up with this as our recommendation.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion? Could I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Barber?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Thank you. So let's go to number 2, adopt ordinance 1276, adopting the City of Goodyear's Engineering Design Standards and Policies Manual. So would the city clerk please read the ordinance by title only?
Adopt ordinance 12-1276, adopting City of Goodyear Engineering Design Standards and Policies Manual 2012 edition, repealing ordinance 07-1092 that adopted City of Goodyear, Arizona Engineering Design Standards and Policies Manual dated October 2007, repealing ordinance 07-1093 adopting supplemental standard details for public works construction dated October 2007, providing for corrections, severability, penalties, and an effective date.
Thank you. Could I have a motion, please, and a second?
So moved.
Heard a motion from Vice Mayor Osborne, a second by Councilman Pizzillo. Council discussion? Roll call, please.
Councilmember Campbell?
Aye.
Councilmember Barber?
Aye.
Councilmember Stipp?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Osborne?
Aye.
Councilmember Pizzillo?
Aye.
Councilmember Loretano?
Aye.
Mayor Lord?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.
Great, thank you. Well, we're in the informational items. Does council have any comments? Councilman Campbell?
I have a couple of comments. One comment I'd like to make before I tell you of my travels this week is that I would like to thank Jack Friedline for coming on board and doing the extraordinary work that you did to revitalize our Public Works Department, to step in and do all that you've done. This city is very grateful to you. And I know we're going to prosper because of your leadership, and I just couldn't let you leave without letting you know how important you are to us and how much we thank you. That said, now I'll tell you where I've been this week. I went to Mobile on Friday with Santa Claus, and we delivered Christmas presents with our police department. Commander Cousin and Lieutenant Rodriguez accompanied us, as well as our fire department with Oscar and Ryan and Jeff, and we just had a wonderful time. Monica Holliday came with us from the prosecutor's office, and we took a whole trailer down full of presents for these children. And when we got to the school, since it had rained, they were having their PE in the gravel driveway because it was the only dry spot around. And they saw us drive up with this trailer, and they just were so excited. So they had to get them in the school and out of our way so we could back the trailer in. But the joy that the children experienced and the gift of the City of Goodyear residents, especially the Lady Niners from Pebble Creek, who furnished all of the gifts for all of the children in the school, as well as all of their siblings, is just an extraordinary event and is just most appreciated. Mobile loves Goodyear, and they just thank us for thinking of them at this time.
Well, we thank Pebble Creek. That's quite a contribution they're making, and we really appreciate it, and all the families do. Councilman Pizzillo?
Again, I'd like to thank Jack, but I'm sure I'll see you again on the open road on some trip in the future. So we're not done yet. So, but again, I appreciate all the help that you've done and helped us out during some challenging times. Been to a few places, but the one that kind of impressed me in the week is I went to the ITT Technical School Saturday. They had kind of like an open house to show what the students have been up to, and I'm telling you, the skill sets coming out of that school is really awesome. Impressed with the drafting and the drawing skills that they have, and was really impressed with the school. And again, when they get out of there, they have skill sets putting right back into the workforce. So again, there was a couple of us there. There was Charlie from Avondale, and there was a council member from El Mirage, and they appreciated us being there. But again, the students coming out of that school are awesome. So
Great. Vice Mayor?
Sure. I just wanted to let you know, just recently, last week, I met with our ASU partners that are putting on the study for the tourism and talking about some next steps that are going on besides the surveys from hotel guests. They are about to have some students that are going into, probably after the first of the year, the Estrella Mountain Park, and talking to the cyclists, the hikers, whoever, going out there and meeting with them. And also they're doing a couple of jaunts to the zoo to talk to the Wildlife World Zoo and guests that are there. So there's a few different events. I think they'll be heading to Litchfield Park's Native American Festival. A few different things that go on out here to try to find out why are they here, where are they staying, what are they doing, those type of things. Also did attend the chamber breakfast. That was a fun time, actually, because it was at the zoo. And I had not been to Dylan's restaurant, and they had the breakfast in Dylan's restaurant with the aquarium. So that was...
The barbecue spare ribs?
No, it was breakfast. It was
well,
breakfast.
I didn't know they served breakfast.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they really do. I think they did that special for the
That's why I was
chamber.
joking with you on
Gotcha.
that.
Thank you, Jack. Appreciate all your work, and I just wanted to wish everyone a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and hopefully the Mayan calendar is wrong this Friday. I'm sure it is, but as we continue to plan for the future, and thank you, Jen, for that time of silence for the kids and the families and everybody in Connecticut. That's been a tough time. So thank you.
I'll just say thank you to Jack. I think we've all said it. Are you sure you don't want to stay around? Because, we just keep extending it over and over again. I just, when you hear about all the great things, from the shop to the cop to going down to Mobile, we have a great city here, great volunteers, great staff. And I just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, a blessed New Year, Happy Hanukkah, and just enjoy your time. And we'll see you in the new year and start fresh.
Yes, Councilman Barber?
Jack, we just met. Sad to see you go. No, thank you so much for all the contribution that you've brought here to the city. It's greatly appreciated, and you've been very helpful in the meetings that we've had in helping me get up to speed. So I wish you the very best. This morning, I had a chance.
Please, you talk about it.
Okay. This morning was the Cactus League press conference, and fascinating. I was very encouraged by the numbers that came out of there, and I think, a kudos to Nathan Torres for all the great work that he's doing here as well with our ballpark. Very encouraging numbers. I drive past that ballpark every day, and I see big, great hopes for it, and today I think the numbers really kind of, reflected that as well. So happy holidays, Merry Christmas to everyone, and again, I hope our police and fire remain safe as they protect us over the holidays.
Thank you. Well, Jack, I'd like to say goodbye and my best for your future and your retirement. I guess, are you really going to retire? You don't know, see? Yeah, I know. But we certainly benefit by your presence, not only your knowledge and intelligence, but your sense of humor. And so, again, we all, you can tell how much we love you. And I don't know, he talks a good game, so the city manager may talk you into some more weeks. I don't know. I'm not going to give up yet on that. But yes, the Cactus League meeting, we had actually a meeting before the press conference. And I'm just going to tell you that it's climbing. We're becoming successful. And so I want to wait. And when will Nathan be able to present that to the council?
Mayor, members of the council, I actually have some of the highlights in my report to you
Great.
tonight.
When I turn, that's great.
And in addition, we'll be sharing the executive summary, but I'll go through that in a little more detail in a moment.
Great. Well, that's all I have to say, except I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and I guess I should say Happy Hanukkah and Happy Holidays. Have I covered it all? But stay safe and enjoy your loved ones. Life is tenuous. You just never know. So just enjoy yourself and don't gain too much weight. So.
Oh, sure, Georgia.
Yeah.
Here. Oh, my God. Let's see what our mayor cooks.
Yeah, I know.
She can cook too.
Yeah, well, and you will gain weight for those.
And then
yes.
she says, "Don't gain weight." Right.
So I'm turning over to you, City Manager.
Mayor, members of the council, I actually have several items. I'll get through them as quickly as possible. But I do want to start off because there were concerns as a result of the horrific circumstances back in Connecticut. And I know that there was an email that was provided to the council by our police chief. And I think it's important for us to, anytime tragedies like this happen, it absolutely brings home what we're doing here. So what I'd like to do, the council had the benefit of seeing the email. I would like the police chief to just discuss a few of the items, really more for the benefit of the public that it wasn't witness to that email. So my first item, I'll bring up the police chief, and then after he's done, I'll finish.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I just want to give you a quick update on how we're partnering with our schools and some of the things that we're doing in light of recent incidents that happened throughout our country this past week. First of all, and I want to thank you for the moment of silence, but there are just no words to describe the senseless acts that occurred. No explanation at all. And our thoughts and our prayers go out to the families and all the victims of this tragic event. This event will have an impact on communities throughout the country as well as law enforcement in relation to processes, procedures, and our plans. And no matter how much security, metal detectors, security cameras, locked doors, security officers that we can provide, we can't prevent things like this from happening. We can impact them, though, and that's what we intend to do. And we do that by being totally prepared, well-trained, transparent, vigilant, and providing as much deterrent as possible. This morning, we visited the majority of our schools in Goodyear and met with the administrators. The ones we didn't get to today, we will get to tomorrow morning. We also have patrol officers provide extra patrol throughout the different campuses and schools, which we will continue to do also. Several of the administrators praised the police department for that presence. I also had several emails from residents informing me that they noticed the officers and felt relieved, reassured, and safe because the officers were there. Our meetings with school administrators this morning were very beneficial. In addition to already working with some of the schools on emergency response plans, participating with those schools in lockdown drills and evacuation plans, other schools asked for our help and guidance in developing and revising their current plans. We have been and will gladly continue to partner with those schools in every way. We will make it a priority to review our emergency response plans at the police department, and we're doing the same at the city level. Our new police department PIO starts in January, and we can't wait, and we'll provide additional communications flow from the police department to all of our residents about significant events. I can assure you that your police department is proactive and committed to making Goodyear the safest city in the valley, especially when it comes to our children. And with that being said, I want to thank you and thank each of you for all your continued support to public safety.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that. Very important to hear that from the Chief directly. And our thoughts and prayers are with the families and all those that were impacted. It's tough to transition. I do have a handful of other items. I'll get through those quickly. One is a telephone replacement project. This was identified back in 2010-11. We allocated dollars for our aging telephone system. We were having outages. The system was outdated. We knew we had to get rid of it. So we had an internal team. We worked with consultants. This past weekend was very successful. We had the cutover. And I do want to just pull a few things out of here. So it's a new phone system. So what? Well, the good news is there's a lot more enhanced reliability. We aren't having the system outages. And we can expand really customer service when you think about it and create our efficiencies, which are very much the goal of the city. Customer service and efficiencies. So we can do more efficient call routing and tracking. I won't get into all the details. But some of the good news out of this, the annual operating costs in year 1 through 5 will actually be reduced by $100,000 a year. And the other is a project was budgeted at $1.5 million, came at $1.2 million, savings of $300,000. And Part of that is just hard work by our staff, and I do want to thank a few of them personally as they work through this. Manny Mahia, who's IT, Aaron Sahim, Brian Watson, Cindy Sheldon, Veronica Olgin, and Fred Wilburn from ITS, and then also Anna Dizak with the finance department. A lot of others working behind the scenes, but these are just ones that gave up weekends, nights. I think they pulled like 18-hour, 20-hour stretch at times just to get this done. So congratulations and thank you. On spring training, just a couple of highlights. We'll get out the study to you, but I think it's important to point out Cactus Lake study is done every 5 years, approximately, and the objective is to track the expenditures associated with baseball game attendees, and this is during the March, not really March Madness, I guess that has a different connotation. Sometimes it seems that way at our ballpark during the busy days, but it is specific to spring training. These studies have been done many times over the years. This particular one for 2012, a lot of positives. A couple of the positives I'll point out, attendance actually was up 40.6% compared to 2007 when the last study was conducted. So that's 1.7 million people attending the Cactus League, one of the 10 stadiums or ballparks. Out-of-town attendees, 58%, slightly down. It was 61% in 07, but that's still a sizable amount when you think about the tourists coming into our communities. Average number of games attended by them, 2.6 per person, about the same as 07. One of the good news, the median length of stay is 5.3 nights, up from 4.7 in 2007. And then finally, the impact of spring training is up 36% in round numbers over 2007. It's at $422 million a year. Incredible. The other important thing coming out of this study is Elliott Pollock was contracted with by the cities, and they looked at the additional impacts. For example, Goodyear has 500 event days at our development complexes, on the fields, in the ballpark. So we have a lot of use there, and we're probably one of the busier. I'd put us in the top three anyway of the busiest throughout the area, and kudos to Nathan and staff for how hard they work behind the scenes to make that happen. But a couple of things that we will get specific results later on what Goodyear realized in 2011. But outside of spring training, there's another $211 million in economic impacts. So you add those together with the spring training, that's $632 million a year. So it's a very, very important industry to the state of Arizona. So as we'll get the executive summary out to council later this week, you'll have these facts and figures. And then as we get our own specific numbers to non-spring training impacts, we'll get those to you as well. So good news, and thank you for being there this morning. I know staff absolutely appreciates that. A couple of other items is we have, fill a need, and it was already talked about, and we'll get some more information out to the council. But it was 30 families, 103 children in Goodyear, and the 61 children, as was pointed out by Councilmember Campbell in Mobile. But 23 businesses participated in contributions and reductions, and just a lot of folks involved in this, and a very special thanks to those from Pebble Creek as well. True community effort, and on behalf of the families, they really benefited greatly from this. Last thing I would say is, Jack, it has been a lot of fun. You're still here to January 3rd, so don't get any ideas. And it has been a pleasure. I would also like to introduce Jim Rompeltus. Jim, if you could stand up, I won't make you give a speech. Jim Rompeltus is one of our interim deputy city managers, and he's looking at about a 3-4 month stint with us. Jim had a lot of experience in county government in Washington and also in Surprise, Arizona. And he goes out to a lot of communities these days as a consultant, and very well respected. So it's good to have him on board as a former manager to bounce ideas off of. It's a good thing. So wanted to recognize him. And then lastly, on behalf of our staff that's all here, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to the Mayor and Council and to our citizens. So thank you.
Great. And before we dismiss, any inquiries of staff, keeping in mind it's Christmas? Oh, good. Good. All right. Then the next work session will be on January 7th, 2013. Can you believe it? 2013. And the next regular meeting will be January 14th, 2013. So this meeting is adjourned.
Merry Christmas.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Bye, Bill.
Have a great rest of the year.